We're gonna go over everything we know about Starfield so far, which include all the gameplay trailers, all the concept images, all the Q&A sessions. We have a ton of other notable mentions, so let's just jump right into it. What's up, world? It's Jimmy back in another video. Today we're checking out all things Starfield and everything we know about Starfield currently. And I tried to condense all this information the best I could, so we'll start out here with the ship customization survey that got sent out, which talked about game difficulty, quest types, and obviously also spaceships, and it talked about if people liked and enjoyed getting achievements, which it seems like a lot of people are into the achievement hunting these days, so I think that's kind of one of the things they're going for, especially with games like Hogwarts Legacy. I think they overdid it with the puzzles. But next we'll jump into here some of the watch concept art that came out. And people did some digging, and I'll try to enhance the image the best I can, but in the bottom right, it looks like it's showcasing the Apollo flight path, the original flight path, and the service and lunar module. But it seems like that leads into the patent stuff that also came out with the patent around the trajectory system, so maybe there'll be some cool dynamic there that even No Man's Sky didn't have. Now, there were also a bunch of videos that got dropped into the mix, and they were basically intro videos, intro to the Starfield, and there was 4 of those videos. They talked about the constellation, a bit of notes in there. In those videos, there's nothing too crazy, aside from small little lore tidbits, some of those being system name drops. Some of those include Crykes, Saga, Cheyenne, Lenara, Nation, Alpha Centauri, which is probably going to be a capital. And the police systems and agencies they called SysDef and Vanguard. So those were the 2 notable things there with that agency and like the police system. Seems like they're going to be focusing on defense and policing, and they are 2 independent groups. We also have to talk about the Todd Howard Q&A, and there are 2, but we're going to talk about the first one here that happened in 2021. And the first major question here was about the robot companion in particular. And he said, yes, there is going to be a robot companion named Vasco, and this will be a dog robot companion, but it will also be aside from other companions, so it won't be a main companion. It'll probably be more like a pet or an assistance companion, aside from being like a major companion. An example of a major robot companion would be in Outer Worlds. Now, they asked him about the customization and how it would be for the backstory choices and all of that, and they did compare it to Morrowind and Oblivion, and he did agree. So it seems like we're going to get a really in-depth character creator, and I know for myself especially, I will be spending a lot of time on, especially if it's as fleshed out as they say it is. Now, they did talk about mods and the mod scene in general, and he did say there's going to be full mod support, seemingly same as other games, mod creation tool kit eventually. Which is so awesome to hear. It's so great when companies do just give us full mod support and allow for these insane amounts of work and effort that people give into these mods already, that they already are going to do, and at least allow them to have the tools to do it. And some of them are just so cool. There's even the Cyberpunk one where there's a whole metro station, and that's without a tool or anything. Imagine what they could do if they had one. And we already know about the Skyrim and Oblivion mods. Those are just absolutely insane. People make and build entire cities with quest lines and their own entire main story and all this stuff. It's just absolutely insane. It's really good to hear that there's going to be full mod support with this game. Also good to note that there's no AI voices, there's no AI generated voices, so this seems pre-GBT, pre-ChatGBT and all this stuff. I know a lot of games are probably going to be using a lot of AI generated stuff, which could be good in some cases and bad in others. And one other small little note here is they talked about ladders, and they said ladders are hard to animate. And yeah, I don't know a lot of games that get the ladder animation right. It seems to be a difficulty for a lot of these game devs. Now, next up we have the Starfield Chronomark watch, and all these details were found out by Squiddy Vaughn of Reddit. And in this intro video, they showcase a lot of watch concept art. And it was found out that the game's lore seems to be around 2188. And there was also something interesting, like a little notation of at most Emmet, and a lot of people are speculating on what this acronym could mean. There's a ton of debate around there. And this watch seemed to be pretty cool. It had some cool features. There was like some little weather thing that it showed, and that was kind of cool. I've never seen that on a watch before. Now, we do also have some official concept art, which is always nice to showcase because this is the actual art from the game, and it's not just some leaker or unverifiable source. And man, a lot of these look really cool. They showcase planets with moons, like hidden in the background, almost like an Earth setting. And the type of geometry with some of the plant life and a lot of the stuff with like New Atlantis looks really good, which seems to be another major city. We have some really cool and defined ship art, and these ships look absolutely massive. And it seems like this game is almost their take on Outer Worlds, which had a really small budget. It was from a AA studio. It was the same studio that worked on Fallout New Vegas. We do have some other city images here, and man, they look really like reminiscent of like a broken down Star Wars city or even Tatooine, especially this image, this Alcala city. And even in here, the Alcala city looks so dense, kind of just like Tatooine and kind of the inner trenches there. This looks so dense and nice. I hope the game is like this through and through. And or at least in these bigger cities, that a lot of them have these like denser areas and really nice population density as well. I also have the Neon City concept art, and it looks absolutely massive. This looks really cool, almost reminiscent of like a mini cyberpunk city. And even the inner images and the inside images look kind of like that cyberpunk-esque. So this could be a mix of a lot of games here. We also had some player concept art, and some of this stuff looks really cool. It looks really good so far. Some of the suits kind of look Iron Man-ish, and some of them kind of reminiscent of like that Tatooine, like hooded figure. Definitely getting even some Destiny vibes here. And the concept art just looks absolutely incredible overall. I do want to go over some few notable mentions here. Now, the Pete Hines interview happened, and I didn't really get anything from that, but that was in 2022, which then leaves us to the Todd Howard Q&A session that happened in 2022 and not the 2021. And there was actually some really notable stuff here. They talked about procedural generation and if there's going to be any procedural generation in the game. And he did say that the Daggerfall was actually procedurally generated, a lot of it. Fallout 4 had a lot of procedurally generation in there for the quests. He did say those same tactics are going to be used, and there might be planets that were procedurally generated but then cleaned up or made to look a little bit better, which makes sense. Procedural generation always helps. He said there's over 200,000 lines of dialogue, and in comparison, Skyrim had 60,000 and Fallout 4 had around 150,000. Planets can be barren rocks, so not every planet is going to be super populated. I did probably think that that was going to be the case, especially with 1,000 planets or 1,000 or more planets. There's going to be a few that are not going to be suitable for human life, or probably many that aren't. He did say the ship combat was going to be a very slow-paced, think Mecha Warrior. It's a lot slower combat there. He did say the other really cool thing about ships is that you can dock, you can board, you can steal, and you can talk to a lot of these people. And that's just kind of crazy to think. If you encounter any other spaceship inside this entire galaxy of solar systems, and you could just board them, or steal from them, or dock and talk to them, that's absolutely nuts. So that would be really cool to see, and I hope that is played out like he said it is. They did also say there's going to be 20 different backgrounds, kind of like a cyberpunkish with that background stuff and the customization. So it seems like the background stuff will matter just a little bit. It's really hard to deal with that type of dynamic, especially with that many backgrounds. They can't have all these different dialogue option choices and stuff, so it probably will matter a little bit to an extent, but nothing crazy, at least in terms of how Cyberpunk was. Also, another thing to note here, with those cities we went over, there's 4 of them. There's the New Atlantis, the Aquila, then there's Neon, and there wasn't a 4th one listed or wasn't talked about, it just wasn't brought up. And then he did say that there's also going to be smaller cities as well, not just bigger cities. There will be a few smaller ones, and that's just not all that there is. But that's what I got mostly from condensing down this 400-page document. Again, shout out to Gokuma. This document is incredible. Please check it out. Please go give him all the support you can. This thing's absolutely amazing. But that does about cover it for today's video, and if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. And until the next one. Deuce.